seen as an increasingly unsettled region. Of course, Western nations fear that continued demonstrations against President Mubarak's regime could lead to a domino effect, so-called, of unrest across the Arab world. And to discuss this, we can now speak to Shashank Joshi, who's a research associate at the Royal United Services Institute and a researcher at Harvard University. Good evening to you.
Afternoon.
Thank you for coming in. We were discussing there really the shape of the opposition. We mentioned there the Muslim Brotherhood, but of course it's a much wider patchwork of opposition. How do you see that kind of taking shape now?
Well, the Muslim Brotherhood initially were very canny in their approach, in that they fell in line behind el-Baradei's leadership and they accepted this 10-man committee. They've since gone back on that, and Mubarak himself has sought to raise fears in Egypt's middle class that the Brotherhood are a regressive, violent force causing the protests, and so there's real danger now the opposition coalition could somehow crack.
If that is the case, how do you see things potentially playing out over the next few, let's say the next few weeks, if President Mubarak just tries to maintain the line that he's holding at the moment, which is to get new ministers in, to promise democratic reform, and hope that does the trick?
President Mubarak has realized he needs to play this very carefully, and the way he's done it is essentially to enter into a power-sharing agreement with the military. He's appointed the vice premiership to Omar Suleiman, a former head of the intelligence. He's appointed Ahmed Shafiq as prime minister, a former Air Force chief. And he realizes as long as no tank commander in Cairo is willing to seize a center of government power, no amount of protests will translate into a decisive blow against the regime. So he is also playing a waiting game, hoping the revolutionary energy dissipates and hoping that the protests simply melt away over time.
I'm interested as well in your view on the international reaction to this, the kind of reluctance to call openly on the president to step down, and yet the use of the phrase orderly transition, which to most people would mean the same thing.
That's right. I think the United States is terrified that Mubarak steps down or flees before the opposition can get its house in order, and in case that occurs, the Muslim Brotherhood could make gains that the United States is terrified of. And it's not just the United States. Saudi Arabia, Jordan, they also have their own troubles with the Muslim Brotherhood. Israel's especially concerned as well. And so the United States is very keen on giving the opposition time to coalesce and form a unified front with which it can present itself to President Mubarak.
Mr. Joshi, very interesting to talk to you. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
That was Shashank Joshi there from the Royal United Services Institute.